All right, quick update on the recent news on the tariffs from Trump. Uh, Microstrategy, really called strategy, dumps about 6% after hours with the news. And what is happening in the future? Are we going to tariff land, and is the market dumping, or is this all just a lot of media FUD that's being announced, trying to get people to sell and get people in fear? So not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice. So as we know, Trump just dropped a big new tariff plan. The market is acting a little bit crazy. Now, this is not just my sentiment. I'm echoing some of the words of Anthony Pompliano, who was sharing this earlier today, as well as Investor Place Digest. So many people have the same viewpoint that's shifting from one of fear to one of, hey, this is just a correction. So Trump just dropped his new tariff plan. The media is saying that recession is coming, the sky is falling. But here's the deal. They're wrong. Things aren't falling apart, even though we had a big drop on Bitcoin from 87 and change all the way down to 82.5. If you looked at strategy after hours, strategy was up as high as about 315 today. It went down to 292, a 6% drop. It's now rebounded about to 297. I don't think things are falling apart. In fact, I think they're getting better. And so let's take a look at why, right? Here's the truth about the real numbers of the economy. Let's start with the real numbers. Back in December, inflation was over 3%. Now, if you look at it, it's down to 1.4%, according to Trueflation, which is a real-time tracker. Gas prices are the lowest they've been in 4 years. Eggs, the prices have dropped very hard. We know that eggs were very highly priced over the last couple of years. And if you're still yelling about inflation, I don't think you get it. And if the media is yelling about inflation, I don't think they get it. We're not speeding up, we're slowing down. I think the big misunderstanding is that people think that inflation is due to these tariffs are going to come in and there's going to cause inflation and the economy is going to crash. The tariffs aren't the things causing inflation. In fact, I just showed you that the inflation numbers are down. Printing of money is one of the things that causes inflation. So let's get to the facts on that, all right? So Trump's new moves. This is what he's saying with his tariff plan. 25% tariff on foreign cars and trucks. 20% tax on everything coming from China. New tariffs on beer and even aluminum cans. And here's the big one that he's announced today, his reciprocal tariff plan. He says any country that hits us with taxes or trade barriers, we will total it up. Then we'll hit them back with half that amount. So that's a pretty intelligent strategy of negotiation. Some of the articles I was reading earlier from Investor Place Digest was just talking about the fact that this is kind of a softer tariff and they're kinder tariffs, how people were expecting a big hard hit back. And Trump's saying we hit them back with half the amount. So I think it's smart. It's reasonable. I don't think Trump and the U.S. are being unreasonable with this. And Trump calls it a kind reciprocal tariff, meaning 10% for everyone. So his whole statement is, if you want to avoid it, then build your stuff here in America. That's it. And Trump's saying, if you want to sell here tax-free, you better build here. I think that's a smart move. So I don't think this is about crushing other countries. I think there's been a lot of fear in the media, a lot of things that have been spreading in the media. But if you watch different YouTubers who are smart, you watch different people who are reporting, like Anthony Pompliano. He puts out a great newsletter. I just read some of it this morning and got this data about Trueflation. And our inflation numbers are down. And these are good signs. So this isn't about crushing other countries with these tariffs. It's about protecting American jobs. And that's what Trump's doing. And it's already working. We have Israel and Vietnam. They're already dropping their tariffs. And we haven't even hit them yet. So that's what leverage looks like. So this was prior to Trump's announcement. But you know, at this point, he's rolled out what he's going to do with his tariffs. And over the next couple of weeks to come, we'll see how people respond to it. But this is leverage. And I don't think he hit as hard as everybody thought he was going to hit. I think he's just being smart. So is this going to turn into a big trade war? Probably not. Probably not. And this is great from Investor Place Digest. They just did a quote from this other investor named Luke Lango, and it says new deals are coming in April. And he says tough talk turns into soft negotiations. And most of these tariffs won't last long. And when it cools off, the market could rip. So that's good news. Stocks are dropping right now. I don't know what the NASDAQ is now of time of this video. You'll have to take a look. I know that at one point, Strategy dipped 6%, but it's not quite down 6%. If you ever want to check after hours, like right now, I do Strategy on my phone on Robinhood. And so if you want to check after hours pricing, you can just go to Robinhood, and they've got great after hours pricing. So we saw at the market close today, Strategy was at 312, but now if you look at it after hours, Strategy's at 297. So Strategy is down 5% right now, and they were down about 6% earlier. All right, so 6.5%. So the NASDAQ has fallen. We know that. Bitcoin has fallen. Bitcoin was up as high as 87 and change, and now Bitcoin's down to 82.5. So that's what's happening with Bitcoin. But this isn't about what is happening right now. It's about the fear of what might happen. And there's been a lot of fear. And if you watch my previous videos the other day, I talked about these tariffs, and I talked about April 2nd coming, and that we could go lower. But I also did talk in my previous videos about the support levels being 82,000, and we're right around 82.5. We bounced off that earlier in the week, and then we shot up slowly, 83, 84, 85, 87. So there's a lot of fear in the marketplace, and now we're seeing April 2nd has come. We got Trump's announcement. We saw the market drop a little bit. If that fear fades, the market will snap back, and we've seen it before, and I think we'll see it again. So inflation's dropping. This is all good news, big picture. Okay, prices are down on things, which is good. I just talked about gas prices being down, egg prices being down. The yields are falling on the 10-year treasuries, which is really good. And what that means for the public is when the yields fall, people who want to go get mortgages for their houses, they can get them at lower interest rates. People want to go borrow money for their business, they can get them at lower interest rates. So we want to get the 10-year treasuries down. They're kind of at a level right now. We want to get them a little bit lower. And that's going to be a good sign, because that's going to bring more liquidity into the economy. And liquidity is what's going to drive the market up. The more liquidity that's in the marketplace, and the more people have access to capital, the more that the markets are going to drive up. And all of that is coming. If we look at the trend of the money supply recently, all of that is coming, of the M2 supply. So countries are removing tariffs on us. We may even refinance debt at better rates, which would be incredible news, right? The U.S. starts to decrease their debt. We know that there's talks about the U.S. with Bitcoin bonds, and where they would issue Bitcoin bonds. And there's a talk about $2 trillion worth of bonds, and that 10% of those bonds would be used to buy Bitcoin. So it would be like typical U.S. bond. The U.S. loans money to people. They bring in, several $1 trillion, and then 10% of that would be used to actually go buy some Bitcoin. So that could be a large purchases of Bitcoin over the next several years, which would be fantastic. So there's lots of different ways that the U.S. can acquire Bitcoin, which would be another way to restructure the debt and pay down the debt over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And Bitcoin would be the answer and the solution to do that, in my viewpoint. So we know that if the U.S. does this, they've got a $36 trillion debt. The GDP of the country in the U.S. is not as big as the debt. So we have more debt than we actually produce. And that's not a good thing. It's kind of like balancing a checkbook. You spend more than you actually produce. That's not a good thing. So there needs to be some things that are happening. I think the economy is moving in the right direction, and the facts are pointing to that, not what the media is saying. So this isn't collapse, it's strength. And my message to you is don't fall for the fear on this. I would not fall for the fear on this at all. Right now, the tariffs are helping America, and it's balancing to create some equality in terms of fair trade. So I don't think what Trump's doing is unreasonable, and I know it's striking people at a time where they're going, "Oh my God, like he's hitting back so hard with the tariffs," and he's being unfair. But I don't think he's being unfair. I think he's being smart. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it, man. Thanks, Dennis. So they're creating jobs, they're lowering prices, they're balancing the trade, and that's what's happening. Okay. So if you have any final thoughts on this, you can drop them down in the comment box below. But if you're just joining us on this, I just went through the fact that there are some good things happening right now in the economy, despite the fact that you hear we're heading towards recession and we're headed towards these tariffs that are going to crush, investor confidence. Actually, the indicators are pointing to the fact that investor confidence should not be crushed. Again, to repeat, inflation is going down. The new numbers of Trueflation show 1.4% versus 3%. And that's because gas prices are lowering, egg prices are lowering, and the Trump tariffs are not as bad as everybody thought from my perspective, because he could have hit a lot harder, but he's doing what's called kind tariffs. So there we go. And that's the basic news for today. So I think we are going to bounce back in a couple weeks. It's going to bring people to the table for negotiations over the next couple weeks. And I think in April, we're going to start to bounce back. And I think we're going to rip in May and June. And I think this is good news for the economy. And I think what's happening here is we see the U.S. that's trying to do intelligent business. So whether you like Trump or not, or whether you're in favor of the U.S. or not, I think he's trying to do intelligent business, and he wants to create jobs in America, and he's protecting American jobs. And I think he's doing a smart thing. So that's the basic summary of what happened today. And that's what I got for you. So I hope it serves you guys. If you didn't catch all of this, go back and rewatch it, and I'll see you on the other side. And there you have it. Okay. Stay well.